going to give you guys the updates from this week's Office 365 roadmap. So as usual, we have some things in cancel, some things in development, some things rolling out, and some things launched all across the environments this time. So we'll just kind of go through them. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Tom, who's going to take us through. We're going to start with in development today. So this means Microsoft is making the sausage back in the sausage factory at Redmond. Actually, it probably wouldn't be a sausage factory. In Redmond, it's going to be like a granola factory. They're making the granola at the granola factory in Redmond. So go ahead, Tom, talk to us about what is in development.
I'm old enough that I can go back to a song that was probably in the 50s called Oh Dunderbeck, how could you be so mean to ever have invented the sausage meat machine? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've never heard that one. Have you, Adam?
No.
Nope. No.
Okay, fine. Anyway,
so back to Grandpa. No, I'm kidding.
Back to Grandpa. Let me go get the lemonade
back
here.
In my day.
Get your sarsaparilla sitting on the porch.
There you go. Okay, so there's a couple things that caught my eye in the in development thing. How do I top that? I don't. The first thing on the list is ideas in Excel Online. So using the artificial intelligence aspect of Office 365 apps, they're going to give you an ideas pane in Excel Online, which, as they put it, allows you to create, or allows the system to create smart, actionable suggestions that save you time and enhance your content. Hype aside, I think it's always nice, especially for somebody like myself who isn't an Excel expert, if it can go out there and say, hey, you might be able to display your data better if you did it in a X-type chart or a pivot table or something like that. So I personally like this idea. I'm going to be looking forward to seeing it come out and see what it can do to make me at least appear a little smarter than I am when it comes to it.
Well, I like the first line they use, help you do your best work. Some marketing guy is either so proud of themselves, or the product person that came up with it is just sitting there I should be in marketing. This was great. I read that and I was just really?
The guy who did Golden Folders was promoted
to yes.
the Excel Online thing. Yeah. The other thing,
we're gonna meet the Golden Folders person, and they're gonna be angry at us because we tease them about their Golden Folders. All I can think about with Golden Folders is the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, because I've got a golden ticket.
I got a golden folder.
That was not what I thought about with Golden Folders.
No, that was another thing we thought about.
Nope.
So we're not going there, Adam.
Back to Excel's Online. Go. Okay.
Gosh, I get to this in a long week if we've gone this far down. We're only 5 minutes into the recording. The other thing that I had on my list for the in development is the Microsoft Teams focus mode.
Oh my goodness, I need this so much because those notifications drive me bonkers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I noticed that both with the My Analytics in Outlook and stuff, is I'm seeing a lot more focus on the term focus mode, to where they will actually offer to book out 2 hour slots that are considered focus time, which I think is great, because I know I'm really guilty of doing the squirrel, and I'm off on 4 different things, and finally half an hour later I'm going, what started that whole thread? Where I really need something where I can say, remove the squirrels, the bright shiny objects, let me focus on one thing. So what's going to happen here is, if you do a scheduled focus time via My Analytics, I like the fact that they will actually change the indicator in Teams to be focusing, and they will automatically shut off the notifications during that time. So some of you may be going, but what if somebody needs to contact me? This is what focus time is. You focus on something. So I think that's a really good way to get people into that mindset.
Well, it's also, I share my calendar with a big group of people, and there's people that could interrupt me if it was focus time, right? But then there's also times where I actually have a legitimate appointment where I don't want you to interrupt me. But if I'm marking it the same way on my calendar, they don't know if they should interrupt me or not interrupt me. So I'm kind of excited about it if people don't abuse it. So I'm excited to see what they come with from that. And quite honestly, in the in development, that was my favorite thing that I saw this week. So Tom, instead of me stealing your thunder, you stole mine. So congratulations. Good job. I didn't really have anything else out this week, but I noticed there was a whole ton of, actually there was the in Microsoft Teams in the government DoD, there was a way that you could send a link or a code for people to join a team in the DoD environment. So I thought that was another good one that's in development as well. So recipients can simply paste a link into any browser or join a team or enter a code into a box to join a team. So I thought that was a good one coming in as well. And then feedback surveys. Occasionally they're going to get surveys to say, rate how we're doing. I'm not so sure how I like that, but admins can control it through PowerShell, which means we can turn it off. Pleased with that. Other than that, I saw a few admin-y things about email. So I don't know, Adam, if you had any thoughts or anything like that about some of the admin-y email-y things.
Yeah, so I'll mention two email things. I think it's kind of funny. Like, no one steals my thunder because I like the technical, nerdy stuff that, like, 3 people in the world like. But anyways, I thought there was a couple cool things. So whenever I was, neck deep in email and worked with it all the time, if you ever got a malicious email that actually made it through Microsoft's spam filters, malicious filters, stuff like that, the process of going through and reporting that back to Microsoft was so archaic and bad. Like, basically it was like, okay, well, you could forward this email on to a list if you know the email address, or you could potentially go through this reporting system in a separate ticketing system where you could go online. Like, it was, to be blunt, it was real shitty. And like trying to go through and like tell your end user what they needed to do, like it wasn't a great experience. And it always kind of got to me because it's like, there are tens, if not hundreds of millions of people on Office 365 now. Like, how can this reporting system be so bad? Because it's one of those things, even when you have a well-meaning user that like, oh, this got through, I want to report it so it doesn't happen to other people. Okay, cool, go through these 12 steps. Like, they're not going to do it. So they basically announced they're working on a new submission process to make it easier to report stuff like that, stuff that makes it through the spam filters, makes it through the malware filters, things like that, where it will basically be stuff that admins have a much easier policy from their side where they can go in and report stuff. This is long overdue. Again, this is not a big shiny thing that a lot of people get excited about, but I can tell you, like, this is long overdue and will be a good thing and hopefully make it easier. The other thing's really small, but again, one of those quality of life things. The Outlook app for both iOS and Android, you're going to actually be able to add delegates through the phone. My first job in IT was actually doing like exchange support, where I would go through and I would work with customers, and I got this question every single week. Oh, cool, I want to go in and add a delegate. How can I do that? Okay, well, go and log into your computer. And that was 10 years ago. It's gotten even more so now that so many people live off of their cell phones, live off of their device that they have with them. I know people that literally don't have a desktop computer or laptop computer that they use. And so having to tell them, okay, well, you can do this, but you need to go through the online version. You're not going to really be able to see it. Small thing, but good quality of life improvement, where you're going to be able to go through your mobile device, through your iPad, your tablet, whatever it is, and actually add delegates in there. Again, small thing, but I think a lot of people will like this, and this will be one of those things that the people who don't realize that, this has been an added feature will benefit from it. It'll be really good. So happy to see both those coming in development.
Cool.
All right. Well, I've got 2 that are rolling out that I think are fun. I'm going to take both of them, Tom, so you can't have them.
Yeah, you're going to take them both, which means I'm going to just sit here and go, wow, rolling out.
She's not going to take any of mine.
Actually, Tom, I'm going to just take one. You can have the second one.
Okay,
all right, we're going to just take one for rolling out, which is going to be news and page targeting.
Wow, so color me shocked.
I know, right? The news girl is taking that. So with our audience targeting, site owners inside of an intranet can do page targeting. This is great because I'm part of an intranet. I work from home, but a large group of my people work in the DC area. So you know what? If there's a snowstorm in DC and they're all leaving early, I could care less if there's rain, if there's I don't care. So based on region or even roles or different things like that, there's going to be certain things that I don't care about. It's not bad if I know them, but I don't necessarily care about them. So we can do page targeting based on roles, region, status, different things like that. So that is coming to news pages. So I am super, super excited about that. So that has now hit the rolling out stage, which remember, rolling out means it's starting to hit all of our Office 365 first release or targeted release tenants. So it is doing the rollout phases. You'll start to see it. You may not see it in all of your tenants yet, but if you're first released, you'll start to get it soon. Once it hits that launch status, that means it's completely available to everyone in general availability. So Tom, I'll let you go to the second one.
To just add something to the news and page targeting, I'm also looking forward to that one because as we do our migration from 2010 to SharePoint Online, the Stratcom team wants to be able to do news stories, but they want to have the concept like we had in 2010, which was my news. And they were news articles that were filtered based on, are you in Idaho? Are you in Utah? Are you in Oregon? Whatever. And this is going to enable them to do that same kind of thing, which we really hadn't talked about much because we're just spending so much time just doing heads down site moving. But I think this is going to be the answer to what they want to do there. So again, like you, I'm looking forward to seeing this come out. The other one that Jen was so nice not to take because I would had them both flagged and was going to figure out if I wanted to take one over the other anyway. There's a new feature that's going to be coming out in late 2019 where your administrators can use a PowerShell commandlet to move SharePoint sites between locations in an Office 365 tenant. So the main thing that they talk about there is, let's say you have a root site, which is like classic design, and you want to move a modern site that you've built out and let that become your main thing. So for us, if we have, canbyhealth.sharepoint.com, and we want our, home page that we just developed for the Stratcom team as kind of the opening page for our intranet, we can now make that the site that fires off when you just type in the straight domain. They don't necessarily limit it to that from what I can tell. And I'm a little curious to see how this is going to work. I mean, what happens to the old site? Does it just completely swap the URLs? I don't know. You probably know more, Jen, due to NDA insider info, but that one will be an interesting thing to see come about for those situations where you want to make a new home page or home site. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about this one. They're not going to do anything that's going to make them have to do a restore of a site. So they're not going to let you, in essence, take a hammer and drop it on your foot. So I think, there's going to be good documentation on this. This one has been in testing for quite some time. I've been hearing about it since it's been in development. So I'm really excited to see this one come out. This is probably one of the most requested features I've heard about. So I don't think for a second that they're going to come to the market with anything other than what we need. So I'm really excited to see this one rolling out. Very, very excited about it. So I think this one's going to be solid. So we just have to kind of wait and see. So yeah. I'm excited about that one.
I've got one other one that I'll talk about just so I can take it out of Adam's thing because he complains that nobody steals his stuff. Outlook on Android, they have video compression, which means there's going to be an option if you have video attachments in your email, you can use the compression option to reduce the size of the email message. Now, I took that one not even owning an Android phone, but again, I just had to take something from Adam here.
Ooh, I've got one too because Adam, literally almost fell out of his chair when the updates for the Apple Watch came out with Outlook. I mean, he was so excited, it was better than Christmas for him. So I know he is not going to really care much about it, but they've made the same updates for the Samsung Galaxy Watch. So he doesn't, he's not excited about that, but if you were like listening to Adam and going, man, I wish I had that same level of excitement, but I'm on the Galaxy side and I have a Galaxy watch, you too can be that excited coming soon. So
Yeah, they actually released a whole bunch of updates for Outlook for Android, which is cool. One of them I saw did scare me a little bit. They added support for POP3. And for anyone who used email like 20 years ago, the default behavior of POP3 is it pops your mail out of the system. And I imagine they probably changed it where that's not the default behavior for it. But like, I'm having horror stories of being that IT admin with some user who's made it so every time their phone connects, it's literally taking all of their mail off the server. And then you get that call, well, why isn't my mail on my computer? So we'll see where that one goes. But there was one I was actually really excited for. It's going to be nerdy, so like bear with me. But so Azure AD Conditional Access, one of the coolest security features, one of the easiest attainable security features, and something that I recommend for honestly almost all of my customers. Typically, once you go up to Azure AD Premium P1, you can get this, but I think it's a very easy win. You can go through and say stuff like, okay, well, there's no reason my employees would be traveling outside of the U.S., so I'm just going to outright block it out. No one outside of the U.S. can get in. Or say maybe you've had a problem with people coming from Eastern Europe and trying to access your system, or China or Pakistan. You can just outright block countries that way. Stuff like that I think is awesome. I think it's great. You can also do stuff like, oh, well, I love the benefit of two-factor authentication, but I don't want to make my users do that every time they're in the office. So when they're in the office, it just lets them in. But if they're ever outside of the office, I'm going to make them do two-factor authentication. So it's one of my favorite security features. It's something that I think is great. Well, what they're actually rolling out right now really takes conditional access potentially to the next level. So prior to this, if you wanted to do stuff like your own MFA prompts, so I'm talking Duo, RSA, things like that, like your own alternative third-party systems, you just had to deploy ADFS and you control the login through there. But conditional access policies didn't come into play there. Conditional access policies were an Azure AD Cloud thing. So if you had ADFS, you could go in and do RSA tokens, but you couldn't, for instance, say, okay, well, I want to prompt, and if they're not doing that, send them to the ADFS server for a login. It didn't work that way. That's not how the order of events work. Well, they're actually rolling out now Azure AD Conditional Access custom controls, which actually allows you to add in some of these third-party apps. So for like my old job at Rackspace where they used RSA tokens, they could now go and start bracing stuff like conditional access policies to where the prompt is now, okay, we'll go and prompt them for their RSA token if they're not in the office. So really, really cool for them to do. I think this is an awesome thing from a security standpoint because a lot of the more mature, established enterprise customers already had multi-factor authentication systems in place prior to going to the cloud, right? They already had some sort of security system outside of Azure AD. And so what they're really doing is taking this thing that I think is one of the best security policies you can do in the cloud and opening it up to those legacy customers that already had their own modern auth systems in place. I think it's awesome. Really, really happy to see it. And I think it's going to really, really make stuff good for some of the larger customers out there, really.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this too, because right before I go on my cruise to Egypt, I'm going to lobby the company to lock down Egypt so that there is absolutely no way I can be called in on any problems whatsoever when I'm on.
It's so funny, so funny. Well, one last one that I really like that's rolling out. I had an experience with it this week, and our poor help desk guy, I called him and I said, James, I think something is wrong with Teams. And he's like, Jennifer, nothing is wrong with Teams. I looked at our service dashboard and nothing's wrong with Teams. And I said, yes, there is. And he said, well, who's having a problem? I said, Maria's having a problem. Laura's having a problem. I had a problem. Matt told me he had a problem. And last night at a happy hour I had, both Jeff and Matt told me that they had a problem. And we're all having the exact same problem. I think something is wrong with Teams. And he goes, it's your internet connection. And I go, James, we're all over the world. How is it all possibly our internet connection? And so we went back and forth a little bit, and he said, well, no, there's definitely not an outage. So one of the things that is rolling out now is a way for us on our service health dashboard that if we are being impacted by an issue that's not showing up on our service health dashboard, we can actually report an outage or we can report an issue. And so that's a way for us easily to do that. And so I think that's going to be a great thing. I think the likelihood of us finding issues faster than Microsoft is finding them is still pretty low, but I think that's also going to give them a good bit of telemetry. If we think it's an issue, they don't think it's an issue, but there's still a lot of people that think it's an issue, they don't think it's an issue, that still makes it an issue, right? So I think that's going to give them a lot of good telemetry and data points and different things like that. And it also gives us something to click, because I'll be like, that's okay, go click the button, James. He's really not going to like it when that rolls to our tenant, because I'm going to make him push it, because I'll feel better when the button gets pushed. I did my part. So that's rolling out now. So there you go. I'm sorry to all of the IT admins that have a Jennifer in their life who's going to make them go push the button. But there we go. So those are our things for rolling out there. And then finally, we have our launch category. So does anybody have anything for launch that's just like jumping out at them? Go for it, Tom. Tom was excited. He was like, ooh, go for it, Tom. Go.
I just want to be before you, because otherwise you'll take this one, then I'll be, I got nothing at that point.
You got nothing? It's been a slow week for launching stuff, y'all. There's really there's really not that much on our list that we haven't already covered. So this is going to be a quick session, everybody.
Yes. SharePoint sites, adjust the footer of a site. They now have a user interface method to where you can create a footer for a site and not have to do weird convoluted methods to get some footers out for sites that nobody can support. I'm liking this. I've got it on my list of things to play with, and then I'll probably do one of my 1-minute office magic tips on that to let people know it's out there and what they can do with it. So I think that's going to be cool.
I think it's just worth noting, Tom did a wonderful job last week of talking about saving to the cloud simplified, which is basically just your default save prompts now look at cloud locations rather than necessarily looking online. So if you know hotkey Control S and stuff, it can be saving to OneDrive. That should now be launched for all tenants. So we actually talked about it for the first time last week. We all thought it was a cool feature. What's actually already launched, so I think it's just worth mentioning that you should see that live in your tenant if you didn't see it after last week.
Cool. Yep. And I think everything else that is launched we've talked about in the last couple of weeks, which brings us to our last section, which is canceled. And believe it or not, the two things that are on the canceled list we've already talked about as well. And so SharePoint sites, a central asset library. Nobody get upset that is canceled, but that really just moved into something else. We're still getting a central asset repository, but we're not getting it in this same feature ID number, so no big deal there. And then Outlook on the web meeting suggest a time, that also got replaced by a different ID number, so no big deal. So they're just, those items, it's like the jersey's been retired and gotten replaced by a young new basketball player. Go Sports Ball. They were jerseys in basketball, right?
There are. You're good.
Yes,
okay,
Jennifer,
good.
they were jerseys in basketball.
Yeah, it's probably worth noting too. Y'all can probably tell with our blurred backgrounds, we have fully embraced the move to Teams, so you will probably see us recording in Teams moving forward. Now that we know Skype's really going to be end of life and it's going away, we're kind of, going through, and you'll be seeing this going forward. So hopefully quality's good. Everyone can see everything, and our backgrounds are.
I'm hoping as soon as Skype for Business, not Skype for Business because we're not using that anymore, as soon as Teams broadcast allows video sharing for external folks, then I hope we can do a Skype for Business broadcast and then record it that way. But as it stands right now, the last time I was looking at the features, Adam and I could do it, but because Tom is an outsider, we wouldn't be able to do it. So we're waiting for that feature to come.
Well, to be real sneaky, the IT guy asked me to do like PowerShell and stuff for him every now and then.
Yeah,
So he'll give me global admin. We'll sneak you in for like 30 minutes, Tom. It'll be fine.
Or we could just move to one of my demo tenants and we could all just move over there. So reality is we'll get it all, keep watching for the format to change. but it's all good. But hopefully you guys enjoyed today's show. We will be back again next week. Microsoft is, kicking up their new fiscal year. So I'm guessing we've got probably another week or two of slow updates. And then we'll be getting, as we get closer to Ignite, we'll probably have a whole rush of updates. And then we'll have some slowness again. So Adam and Tom, have you guys submitted sessions for Ignite? Have you guys submitted community sessions? You guys have until the 11th.
So I know that Christian submitted a session for Ignite that would be like the top 20 tips that we did at the SharePoint conference. If they accepted, he said there wasn't a place to put a second speaker on there, but if he gets in, he's going to ask if they can do that. Due to our ethics thing, I can't accept the hotel or the plane fare.
Are you going to Ignite though?
I'm not going to Ignite because I went to the SharePoint conference.
Okay.
But if it's a thing where I can speak there, I will pay, even if it's just to go down there, speak, and come home again, just to say I've spoken at Ignite. Yeah. But I have submitted for our SharePoint Saturday Twin Cities coming up here in the fall. They call it the fall. I call it winter. Here in Minneapolis. And so I'm looking forward to possibly doing my the game of SharePoint migrations winter is coming session that I did for their user group meeting. It's really cool. It is really cool. But that's a good one. And Sandra's coming out for that.
Oh, fun.
So
fun.
If we get accepted, we'll both be doing that together because we both came up with the session together because I've been asked to do a migration one. She had been asked to do a migration one in Portland. And we're like, oh, should we go ahead and work together on this? Like, oh, yeah. So we presented like within a week of each other. And now we may have a chance to actually present together if it's accepted. So that'll be fun.
Awesome. Very cool. All righty. Well, everybody, it's been great. And we will see y'all next week. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.